All right, good morning, everyone. It is 10:45 on Thursday, May 9th. Believe it or not, this is our last lead meeting here for the school year. And let's finish this year as we've started. Due to the great job, great leadership on your part, just a wonderful year. Let's finish that way. Also want to recognize adapted bowling this weekend, adapted softball the following weekend, as also visual arts taking place this weekend. You will not hear from Eric here today as he is en route traveling here today. But if you look at our agenda here today, you're going to notice that you'll hear from myself, obviously, Laura, Charlie, with input from Lisa, and also Phil will be joining us today. You're also going to hear from Scott McCready, who is the chair of our ninth grade governance task force. Thank you to our liaisons for their input this week and assembling our agenda here for the week. As we move forward, let's look at what took place this past Tuesday. And thank you to the 48 delegates that represented our 16 regions that forms our rep assembly. And what they did this year is they voted on a proposal from 5 or more schools to discuss and vote upon bylaw 522.7 and the ability to try out in the spring for our dance teams. And the proposal said that that would be eliminated and tryouts would take place during their regular season. That passed unanimously for those that were present. That will go in place for next year, not immediately. So for next year, 522.7 will be changed for the 2024-2025 school year. Also, during the rep assembly, we break out into caucuses, small groups to discuss not only the current proposal, but also a really large shift here for the Minnesota State High School League when it comes to ninth grade governance. Great dialogue by our caucus groups, a lot of direction given to us, I would say, in terms of all things we need to consider. But again, a lot of support for ninth grade coming under the Minnesota State High School League umbrella, which leads us into the ninth grade governance task force and the work that's already been done. Please know that this task force, really the mission of what we're trying to accomplish in the task force is to consider our rules, policies, and bylaws, including that constitutional change. Our goal is to make sure that we're keeping you properly informed to make sure that whether we're voting on the Constitution or changing rules and policies, that it's very clear of everything that will occur within it. If you would jump to the next slide here, please, Laura. The task force members, take a look at the 16 members here. We talked about Scott leading this group. We've already begun, and you're going to hear from Scott shortly. But this is the makeup, again, from across the state, a number of different roles of individuals that, again, are going to guide us in all things that we should consider as ninth grade comes under our umbrella. Again, the ninth grade task force is charged with making sure and making recommendations to our board of directors, and we'll talk about that vote as well. We've asked Scott to join us, and Scott, if you could describe the work that's currently been done and the work that's before us as we meet again in our planning this afternoon. Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Our task force has met twice. The first one was kind of an organizational piece, if you will, and setting up some guidelines and ways to follow and get going. And then our most recent meeting earlier this week, we started digging into what are the main questions and concerns and thoughts that we need to understand what this ninth grade governance will entail, especially focusing on different schools. We have a diverse group on the task force with different size schools, different types of schools, and kind of educating each other on what that looks like in each of our buildings and districts. And our next step is to start digging into some of the details. So we got a lot ahead of us, but looking forward to it. It's a great group to work with.
Excellent, Scott. And Scott's provided great leadership. And boy, this task force came ready to work. They came motivated and equipped. And if you looked at the dates here for next steps, you're going to note that we're going to continue to meet during the summer. again, because the first thing we're going to do is look at a constitutional change and look forward to our member schools voting on that constitutional change yet this October. Other key dates, again, moving forward, following that constitutional vote, we're hoping that our board makes that recommendation here in June, allowing for that constitutional vote. And then again, that work will continue, knowing that policies will need to be voted upon our board, but also bylaws impacted will be on the agenda for next May. Much like we did this past week, you will see bylaws that will need to be changed and or amended by our rep assembly, looking for implementation again of August of 2025. So when you hear the questions regarding ninth grade governance, our anticipation is August of 2025. Laura, we're going to move to you next, but before we do, anything I missed or needs clarification based on the information that we've shared?
I think just what you shared, Bob, the task force is hard at work, and people who have questions, other things, please reach out to us here at the league or any member of that task force if there are things that you're thinking about or wondering about around that ninth grade governance piece. Moving ahead, talking a little bit about end of year and beginning of year requirements for schools. ADs on your dashboard as of Monday morning, you will see a blue alert that talks about registration, participation numbers, etc. Opening up that alert will give you a number of sets of directions, links, and other pieces. There are 4 items on that alert which need your attention to finish some requirements. The first one asks you to register for your activities for next year. That has a due date of Friday, May 24th. This is the Friday before Memorial Day. On that sheet, you'll find a spot to check all of the activities that you are going to participate or your school is going to participate in for next year. Just a reminder that if you are in a co-op, all schools in a co-op register for that sport. The second item is around participation numbers, and that is for this past school year. There are a number of ways there that we ask you to count and report your students. That information is incredibly important to us as a league. First and foremost, it provides the information for how much we pay for insurance and how many folks we cover. Beyond that, it provides a lot of information for covering events, planning for events, and other items. The third item on that is a resolution for membership. That is an item that your board of directors and your superintendent or head of school sign off on. That email is through DocuSign. It has been started and initiated to those folks. They should have received that on Wednesday, yesterday, from our office. New this year, you should be copied on a number of steps within that process as that document moves back and forth. There is nothing for you as an AD to sign off on, but again, a good alert for you to know that that's happening. Connect with your superintendent and or board to help ensure that's done. And then finally, fall sports activities. We ask that you complete and order those by the middle of July. That helps us get those in your hands as we start the new school year. One note about that, we have made a change this year and every school is going to be sent 2 handbooks. In the past, that has always been only 1. We've heard from a number of schools that a second handbook for their principal or other administrator could be very helpful. So this year, the league will be sending 2 handbooks to each school. There is an opportunity to order additional if you want to or need to do that, but know that you will be receiving 2 of those. A couple of notes on your school membership dues. As you complete that school registration for next year, you will see totals start to add up at the bottom. Those numbers are based on a sustainable financial model and that has been charged for the past number of years. Those numbers total out at $100 a school, $160 per sport or activity, and $2.25 per student based on your MSHSL enrollment. Your actual invoice amount will be calculated and sent to you after our July 30th board meeting. At the end of our fiscal year, our board will take a look at a financial standing and then issue membership credits based on that standing against the number that you're seeing at the bottom of your activity registration. Last year, those numbers that were actually invoiced to you were the $100 per school, $75 per activity, and there was no per student charge invoiced back to schools. So again, just a heads up that you will see a number as you're filling out that activity registration. That is not the number that you should be paying on until you see that invoice sent to your school after our July 30 board meeting. That will have some credits on it, again, based on a year-end financial standing. With that, Bob, I'm going to put it back to you. Anything else around those topics to add or clarify?
No, really well done, Laura. I would also recommend taking this information, sharing it with your admin team or a business manager, whoever creates budgets for your district, to understand really a successful model that's in place with great attendance at our tournaments is a result of our success financially here with the Minnesota State High School League. Speaking of success, we had a successful Together 2.0, and based on input from those in attendance or maybe those not in attendance, Charlie, let's talk about 3.0 and what it's going to look like next year. Charlie?
Excellent transition, Bob. Really, really well done there. Yeah, we're really excited to be out in front on the planning this year, much further along than we were able to be for our event last December at the St. Paul River Center. It's going to have a much different feel this for the next school year, because we will be moving to the 4 regional workshops. And as Bob mentioned, feedback was, how do we get these learning opportunities and experiences for kids a little bit closer to more of our member schools? And so we've got 4 regional sites. So please take note of those dates, etch them into your calendars. Also, it's not too early to consider who might attend from your school. Note that the November 21st Metro date, we feel really strongly that that will be the date the Metro event falls on. We just have not been able to finalize yet details or the contract with our site, but fully expect to do so. Presently, we're working with representatives from SALT, our DEIB committee, the educational partners that have been with us from the beginning of the Together initiative that you can see printed below. We're really working on designing the learning targets and activities. For us, it's really important that no matter which workshop you would choose to attend, that the activities, the learning outcome, the experiences would all be similar, regardless of attendance. And as you would expect, when you reconvene in your office for fall startup, we will begin to share more specific information about Together as well. But we know you value the information as early as you can get it and as thorough of information as we can provide. And we're excited to be in a much better place this year. Bob, anything else to add for that?
No, really, really well done, and want to recognize both you and Lisa's work in this area. And just thank you for that. And I see Dr. Ertl on here with us today on lead. Charlie, let's talk about a professional development opportunity this summer.
Yeah, fun to talk about students on the slide before, and now talk about adult and AD learning opportunities that we have available to ADs this summer. We have for you a Lead Network Summer Professional Development opportunity that is centered around Troy Ertl's book, Chasing Influence. And this professional development opportunity consists of 3 90-minute virtual sessions that will be focused on leadership lessons that Troy writes about in the book, and implementing an idea for action in your professional setting. The cost of this is $30. We think the virtual arrangement and virtual setting will allow great flexibility. So ADs that may not be in your buildings over the summer could still have an opportunity to participate. CEUs will be available for those that do participate and engage fully with the entire series. And the $30 cost includes your book and also the facilitation of the CE professional development opportunity. A good opportunity right now also to just publicly thank members of our Education Advisory Committee. This is really their genesis. They recommended developing this professional development opportunity, and they're helping put the final design and facilitation on it as well. So please consider joining. I am certain you'll grow in your role as an AD, and you'll expand your network of professionals in this space. And again, thanks to Dr. Troy Erdahl, who knows this content well and wants us to be successful in this venture as well, and is supporting every step of the way.
Charlie, thank you for your leadership in this opportunity, and congratulations to Dr. Erdahl and just his work as an AD, but also providing and creating and writing a really well done book. One of the things that's essential in your role is governance and eligibility, and how do we protect our student eligibility and assist our coaches in not jeopardizing that eligibility. Phil, let's talk about things we can do moving forward into the summer to ensure eligibility. Phil?
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Bob, and welcome everyone. Good to see everyone on this last lead meeting here. Bob mentioned earlier in our introduction about some of the events that we've already got going. So we got adapted bowling and softball here over the next 2 weeks. We've got visual arts, and then before you know it, we'll be deep into our state tournament run that we have that ends in mid-June there. So summer's going to creep up on us quicker than we know, and we wanted to throw a few things together just to put in your brain on things to be aware of, recognize, maybe even hop in and review some of these different bylaws that could impact student eligibility throughout the summer periods. So we've got a list here of several different, primarily in the 200 bylaws, but that are centered around athletic camps and athletic awards that kind of put some cap or limitations on what student athletes can receive during different invites and things along those lines. Really focusing on bylaw 208, where you've got your non-school competition and training, and within that is all of your summer vacation definitions and timeframes, all of your summer coaching waiver instructions and guidance on that, and then in 208 7, you've got your definitions, which include all the different aspects of in season, out of season, what those summer periods look like, and you really want to dive into those. And then at the end of that 208 section, there's our board policy that's got summer football practice restrictions and some really good Q&A aspects for discussion with coaches, things along those. All of this is giving you some tools and some resources to have conversations with coaches and just to be aware of what's going on in and around your school during those summer period times. And again, this is not because you as an athletic director should be administrating anything during summer. That is not your role, but there are aspects, or there are pieces that you should be aware of that might impact your student eligibility as that summer period is going on. Then lastly in here, we've got bylaw 307 and 308, undue influence. Immediately my mind goes to like AAU basketball and different things like that, where we've got quite a bit of crossover between our MSHSL coaches that are operating in our schools and some of these different club type programs, basketball, soccer, baseball, things like that. So also having conversations with your coaches and being mindful about how we approach those situations during the summer period and how we avoid potential issues when it comes working back into our school year come the fall. Bylaw 205, chemical eligibility is one that's in there. Note that that's a year-round piece. not just in effect during your school year. So we've seen situations where kids coming back from summer and a photo is here or something happened there or a minor is reported there, here or there. These are all things too that you could be having conversations with your coaches as they're wrapping up their seasons, to be communicating to their kids to be mindful during that summer period. We'll go ahead and move forward here into our quick takes. So NCAA and USA events, this is primarily a basketball event, but I know there are potentially other events that when we look back into what I was just talking about on the summer period, these are different invites or different, call them elite invite tournaments, or excuse me, invite camps, and some of those 200 bylaws do apply here. So if you've got kids that are traveling to those, whether it's basketball, it's track, or if there's other invites that I'm not necessarily aware of, know that you should be communicating with them on some of those restrictions around what limitations on awards and gifts they can receive, travel, different things like that. That's all housed in those 200 bylaws, and this is just a point of note for our quick takes. Our track and field section participant entries, these are conversations that you should be having with your track coach. This time of year, getting the correct entries in for track and field is one of the primary and biggest duties for your track coaches. Make sure it's on their radar, and they're very clear and timely in getting those section entries in for your participants. The last thing you'd like to have, that you want to have, is a kid end their season on the regular season when they should or could be participating in postseason events. New activities directors, if you or anyone that you know are moving schools, or are going from a different position to another school or something along those lines, please communicate that with the info@mshsl.org so that we can make sure that we get the right activities directors at the right schools. We know that there is some movement here and there, or if you're aware of a new activity director coming in to a school that might not have an email set up, whatever, if you can communicate that to us at the league at the email address just noted, that would be greatly helpful, so we can make sure that we're getting all the activities directors in the right spots, so we can communicate with them come fall. Officials registration is open for 24-25 school year. Note on this is just that recruiting and retaining officials is on all of us. If there are people out there that you think would be a good fit, please point them in our direction for that. And that registration is open now, as I already said. No contact period for this summer is June 29th through July 5th, 2024. Again, want to communicate that with any of our coaches that are submitting those summer waivers, as that this is that no contact period that we should be staying away from. For many of you, I know for me as an AD, that was a lot of times where I'm getting my gym floor refinished, and all those times where I know that people can't be in and around those places, so that we can do that. Communicate that out to your community. Make sure that everyone is aware. 5-inning doubleheaders are not approved in this 23-24 spring season for baseball and softball. There has been some things that have popped up along those lines. If that is approved, that would be a special communication that went out. Those are not approved at this point in time. Those games should not be played as 5-inning doubleheaders in this 24 spring. Membership requirements, checklists, and booster club best practices are two resources that we have been asked to put together. They're going to provide a ton of value to you as athletic directors. Our membership requirement checklist is something that we've worked with our lead liaisons on to get some feedback on, as well as a couple of other entities to give a yearly checklist of things that should be done, that you can use as a resource. You can expect to have access to this sometime in July or August going into next school year, but we've got some great comments and some feedback from people on things that should be on there that will make your world easier as an AD, just knowing when you have to have things done, and even where they have to go or who you got to get them to. So that's a good thing. The Booster Club best practice one has been something that's been requested for a while, and it's really more so not a place that we necessarily govern what goes on with booster clubs, but with input from the MSHSL, IRS, MDE, we've been able to put together some best practices on how to work with your booster clubs in a way that your school or district is protected, and the booster club as an entity is protected as well. So you can anticipate that coming out ready for next school year in that July, August timeframe as well. And we'll move into our quick takes here. Our checklist, my fault. Register. Many of these things have been touched on. I'm going to fly through these and get it back to Bob here really quick. A lot of these points have been touched on already, and they're already on your radar. Registration for 24-25 activities, participation numbers, and the ordering of your fall supplies. I've had a lot of conversation recently over NFHS rule books. Make sure that we have those at our disposal for use for not just our coaches, but for you and your office and your administrative assistant, for anything that you might need as far as just a reference outside of our MSHSL rules and policies and Minnesota modifications. Hit already on summer coaching and the summer period. Those summer waivers will be coming through to you, and those are up to you to approve those coaches to have contact. That is at your discretion if they can have contact with your kids over that summer coaching period. Again, working with your track and field coaches to make sure that those section participant entries are entered and they are accurate. We want to make sure that we're not stifling any postseason participation for our track and field participants. And then going back to what I talked about a little bit on your AD movement around the state, or to new positions or new ADs coming in, also talking about doing that with your superintendent or principal. If you know that you've got a new if you've got a new principal coming in, please use that same information, that same email, to share that information with us so that we can make sure that we're properly communicating with the right people within your organizations. That communication piece is big for the SUP and for the principal as well. And then in our MSHSL 24-25 calendar, I will say that the fault for many of you, even us in the league office, is using our 3-year calendar. It usually sits on the right and left side of your computer screen somewhere. With updates and different things that go on that adjust our calendar, I will say that our calendar tab on the MSHSL website is the best place to go for the most accurate and up-to-date dates going into your next school year. So 3-year calendar is great for convenience because it's always at your fingertips, but I will say the most up-to-date and current dates that are accurate for your planning are going to be on the calendar on the MSHSL.org website. That's on one of the tabs up top on that. New NFHS rule books, rules for uniform requirements and ordering new uniforms. Again, mention that fall uniform or that fall rules book order. That's going to help you out a ton in referencing that before trying to reach out to an associate director or a program director here at the league. Make sure that you're hopping into those and utilizing all of your resources because that's going to give you the blueprint on what's going to be legal and acceptable during the season for play. So those NFHS rulebooks have a ton of information on the ins and outs of the jerseys. Please check in those before reaching out to the league for help. We're always here to help, but you've got some resources at your disposal beforehand. And with that, I'll pass it back to Bob.
Very good, Phil. Take a breath. That was a lot of slides and a lot of information. Really well done. Be careful, Phil, with eligibility. You might have to expand your role in that area. One of the things I would highlight, define with your coaches what summer really is, right? It's that Memorial Day weekend through the end of July. That defines our summer area. And then we move into saying thank you. Again, thanks to your leadership. What an incredible year we've had. We're going to finish strong, but remember, LEAD is it's more than a series of meetings, right? It's hopefully an opportunity for you to learn and develop in the area of administration. And we've had 9 meetings this year. More than 1,200 have registered for our meetings. Over 730 have listened to the recordings. So we appreciate however you've been able to join us. Continue to do so. We're going to make LEAD even better based on your input. Look forward to a survey to collect some feedback on that. And think about the person who hasn't been attending. Some of you have been on every meeting. But where are those that aren't and do not have the ability to do the job like you do? Encourage them in some way, shape, or form to be in attendance and to be where you're at. That being said, we're going to conclude here at 11:14. Thanks for all your work. Enjoy your summers. Enjoy the remainder of your spring. We hope to see you yet this year, but if not, we'll see you back in August. Thank you.